last week on the Nicoletti Show. Without further ado, let's welcome McLean Bobbitt to the show. McLean, you're here.
I remember the attorney said, hey, we can't clear this title. You're just gonna have to drop the deal. And for me, it was like, nope, I am going to go to hell and back to find this person. I'm gonna find this deal. To me, that's where I get the most joy is what do we have to do to get in front of them and get to this contract across the finish line?
How much time would you say goes into something with like messy titles?
Obviously, we use REI Sift. Shout out to Tyler. We use REI Sift. We'll find a deal in maybe 30, 40 phone calls or maybe 100 phone calls at most.
It's about the distress. And what are distress signals? Code violations, tax delinquents, pre-foreclosures, all of them.
How do I confirm my target and know I got my guy versus just sending a letter and hoping that someone responds?
You decided to go the route of not just the typical postcard. You went a little bit more formal.
I need to stand out compared to your We Buy Houses letter. I'll tell you how we do it. Look up the address, pick a pizza place. We'll call the manager. We'll go, hey, I need you to write this message inside the pizza box. So whenever you open the pizza box, it goes, hey, McLean sent me this pizza. It says, call him. Here's his number. I'll tell you, we are 100% on our contact ratio with that. It's not a 30% chance of response. We are 100% on our response rate for pizza.
How do you ensure that you're protected in a down market?
Think of it like you're fishing. If the fish aren't biting, change bait. If you still don't have any fish biting in the pond, change ponds.
Love it. Thanks again, man. I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Loved having McLean Bobbitt on the show last week. What a great episode that was. If you missed any of that episode, check that out. We talked about messy titles, what to look for, how to capitalize in that kind of market, especially if you're thinking about pivoting in this market or you kind of want to have something to diversify your portfolio and get into that. You want to check that episode out. And if you missed the episode, check it out on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Facebook, where we go all over the platforms. And for all the content on the Nicoletti Show, we will put the content link tree up there for you so you can click where you can find us, find everything on probate, education, you name it. It's all out there. And I'm so excited for the guest tonight. I'm bringing him back. That's how good he is. And we're going to dive into some great topics tonight. And we are bringing back Nate Hare. And he is the executive director of Directed IRA. And there's so much to love about Nate. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's seasoned in the industry. He's articulate with his message. And he breaks down a complicated subject into a simple, digestible format. What's not to love? That's the kind of guest that we love that can break these things down, all these complicated topics. So I can't wait to bring him on. And opening thoughts of the night. You know, once in a while, you have to sit back in your business and think about what's going on. How can we utilize software and systems that we need to help us progress our law firm, our office, our businesses? And one software that I actually came back to recently, I would say in the last couple of months, was Calendly. You know, I heard about Calendly, had to be 3-4 years ago. And a lot of people used it. I first used it when booking guests on my show. I first used it when I was trying to book some consults. And at the time it worked. I didn't know how to really do it on a mass scale with automating and helping alleviate things from my other assistants. And then about 3-4 months ago, I came right back to it and it has helped tremendously. The amount of tasks that it has taken off my assistants, my team, and now been automating the calendar for certain things that we can say, hey, if you click the link, go here. If you haven't checked it out or you've checked it out, you need to revisit it. Or if you're using it, great. But it is an incredible tool that I've been using in my practice. And I think it can help business owners out there when they are running their business. So check it out. I'm excited. I can't wait to do this thing. I got my pen. I got my paper. I'm ready to take notes on self-directed IRA. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida. And welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate. And always bring in the best in the game. When we are talking about self-directed IRAs, marketing, branding, commercial, multifamily, we always want to provide the audience with the best value out there to help you take your business to the next level. As I said, the guest on the show, you're going to love him. He is the executive director of Directed IRA. Nate Hare, and Nate is back on the show. Let's welcome him back to the show. Nate Hare, let's go, baby.
What's going on, man? I got to keep the energy up because I got to keep up with you, man. But I'm ready to rock and roll and talk about self-directed IRAs, really talk about how to get Uncle Sam off your back. I'm excited about it.
Hey, let's do it. I got to say, Nate, we were talking backstage. I actually listened to our episode a couple seasons ago. And I got to say, just if you haven't even checked that episode out, because there's going to be things we're going to talk about today that we couldn't even talk about last time. And it's crazy the kind of knowledge that Nate has. Check it out. Nate, we are going to dive in. And before we get into some of the meat on this, I kind of want to do a refresher because there's a lot of new listeners. There's a lot of people that haven't even heard about self-directed IRAs or actually are using it. But I really want to give that basic knowledge of it before we get into what's going on in the market today. So if you can tell everybody, what are the different types of IRAs?
So let's just define IRA. It's just an individual retirement account. A lot of people know what they are. Individual retirement accounts can be a traditional IRA, it can be a Roth IRA. If you're self-employed, it could be a SEP IRA, a simple IRA, maybe your own 401k. And we even have accounts that aren't even IRAs that can be self-directed, which you might talk about, which are health savings accounts and education savings accounts. Those are the most common accounts that are out there, especially when we talk about self-direction.
Yeah, and that was something that we got into last time. It's a really interesting topic, and I remember a lot of people at the trade show were excited about that. I know you love the Roth IRA. Why do you love that Roth IRA the most out of all the different types of IRAs?
So I wouldn't say I'm the only lover of the Roth IRA. There's a lot of people that love the Roth IRA, and really with the Roth IRA, what to love about it is if you want to invest in anything, right? Real estate, cryptocurrency, whatever it may be. And you want to live off those investments completely tax-free for life and have generational wealth you can pass on to your next generations. There's nothing out there that beats the Roth IRA. And if you understand how to utilize a Roth IRA and invest in things that are cash flowing assets that appreciate, you can really set yourself up for a tax-free retirement for the rest of your life. And, we don't get taught this in school. So I'm a big fanatic about the Roth IRA, not to say it's better than other types of IRAs, but when I see real estate investors take a small Roth IRA and use some strategies to grow it bigger, I always say, what size bucket do you want to pay taxes on? Do you want to pay taxes on a small bucket or a big bucket? A lot of us say small bucket, and that's where the Roth IRA is so powerful.
Yes, I'm a fan of the Roth IRA as well. So I'm with you right there. Nate, let's talk about this. So what is a self-directed IRA? How do people even get into that? What is that?
I'll just break it down real simple out. It's just an IRA. Self-directed is just a marketing term. It's not some special IRA. It's not a new IRA that fits a different set of rules. An IRA is no different at Directed IRA, my company, than it is at Fidelity. You can invest in the same types of things. They're all laid out in the same tax law. Where self-direction comes in, that marketing term, it just signifies whether or not you as the client have to go out and find your own investments or not. And that's where the self and self-direction comes from. So an IRA at Fidelity and an IRA at Directed IRA, completely the same thing. It's just that Fidelity is a licensed securities broker. They're in the business to sell investments. So they're only going to let you hold in their IRA the things they sell. But you're not limited to just those investments. If you want to invest in things outside of Wall Street, you just have to find a company like Directed IRA that will hold it for you, but we don't sell the investment to you. You got to tell us what you want to invest in. So that's where the self in self-direction comes from. But at the end of the day, it's just an IRA.
And if anybody wanted to get into this, how do they begin using a self-directed IRA? Is it as simple as getting with a company like you are at, or do they have to like open it up through one of the major brokerages? How do you start using it?
Literally just filling out an application. You grab it online, or you call us and we send you one. So opening a self-directed IRA is as easy as 5 minutes online, just filling out an application. You fund the account by moving some money over from maybe one of your other IRAs. And then the work comes in as to after you establish it and fund it, how the process works to buy alternatives is a little bit different. We could talk about that later in the program. But as far as establishing it, just go online, fill out an application, and bam, you've got one.
I love it. That sounds easy enough, right? If people want to get into it, there you go. Now, for all the listeners that are in real estate and want to know, okay, there's a self-directed IRA, but if I want to invest in real estate, how do I leverage the self-directed IRA for real estate?
So that's the tricky part if you haven't done this before, but it's really easy. So let me just compare it to, buying stocks. When you have a Fidelity IRA and you're going to buy, let's say, Walmart stock, right? You're going to push a button, you're going to log into your IRA, you're going to push a button, you're going to buy Walmart stock. But what happens in the background that you don't see? What Fidelity's doing is they're signing a stock certificate in the name of your IRA. So what they did is when you push that button, they exchange your asset of IRA cash to an asset of a stock certificate. We do the same thing at Directed IRA, just replace the word stock and put real estate. You're going to fill out a form with us if you want to buy real estate in an IRA. We take that form and you show us what house we're going to buy. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to exchange your IRA's asset of cash for an asset of a real estate purchase. We don't hold a stock certificate, but we'll hold a warranty deed, or we'll hold, if you're doing a private loan, we'll hold a promissory note. So there's always going to be a document showing what the ownership of the IRA is. We sign it just like Fidelity signs it. But the difference is, again, with the self-direction, you got to tell us what that investment is. And you got to work through us as the custodian, because we don't want to give you the money out of your IRA because that's treated as a distribution. You want to buy and sell the investments in the IRA so you retain all your tax benefits. And that's why you have to work through a custodian on any investment that you make.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw an self-directed IRA used for real estate. I saw it when somebody bought a tax deed. And I thought, and it was like this long number, and then it said IRA and the company. And I was like, what is this? I was like, who's putting title in this thing? And then I found out it was somebody was using it through their account. And this is the whole thing here. And speaking of which, so if you could buy it, buy a tax deed with it, what are the types of real estate niches you can use or leverage in with the IRA? Like, what are some things you can invest in?
All the real estate niches. So it's easier to say what you can't buy in an IRA. There's only two restrictions. The IRS doesn't want life insurance contracts in your IRA, or 401k for that matter. No life insurance contracts, no collectibles. So they don't want things that are too hard to value in an IRA. But when it comes to real estate, you can own all types of real estate, and you can even acquire them in all types of ways. The key to owning it in the IRA, though, is you just got to make sure that it's vested properly in the name of the IRA. The thing that you're mentioning is the vesting. When you see that long vesting, you might have, let's say a client of ours owns a rental property in their IRA. Well, the owner is not them, the person. The owner is not their personal LLC. The owner would be, say, Directed Trust Company for the benefit of John Smith's IRA. It's the same thing as Fidelity. If you saw the stock certificate, they actually sent it to you, your stocks are owned as Fidelity, FBO, your name and account number. So as far as real estate strategies go, they all play well inside of an IRA. The only real restrictions you have when it comes to your IRA making investments is not what you buy, it's who you buy it from. And there's some rules and regulations on who your IRA can transact with. You can't buy property from yourself or from certain family members. But as far as the types of real estate you can buy any type, and you can buy anywhere. You can even buy outside the United States if you chose to.
Can we just expand on that a little bit more? You were going to go down a road, like who you can do it with and who you can't. Can we expand on that just a little bit?
Yep. So this is what's called prohibited transactions and disqualified people. So there's certain prohibited transactions when it comes to your IRA's investment. And just to let you know, it's the same rules as your Fidelity IRA, except they never have to talk about these rules because you're only buying and selling investments from Wall Street. So you're buying publicly traded assets. As soon as you take money out of Wall Street and you want to self-direct it, well, now you're in a world of alternative investments like real estate, promissory notes. So you're dealing with private individuals or private companies in most cases. So it is an important topic to understand who your IRA is not allowed to transact with. And I'll just make it real simple, just break it down. My IRA cannot transact with me, the IRA owner, my spouse, my parents and my grandparents, so all the way up, that's called lineal ascendants, my kids or grandkids, lineal descendants, and their spouses, and any companies those same family may own, control, or manage. So it's a specific list of family, me, spouse, up the line, down the line. The reason why they disqualify those people and they don't want the IRA transacting with those people is because those are the people that are either own the IRA or they're going to inherit the IRA at some point. At death, you usually pass assets to your spouse and to your kids. So IRAs don't disappear when you pass away. They turn into inherited IRAs. So those family members are considered disqualified. They're supposed to only take distributions from the IRA, but they can't buy and sell things to the IRA. Now, family to the side, though, are not prohibited. That would be your brothers, your sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews. So it's a little bit different. It's got to be an arm's length transaction, but arm's length away from myself, spouse, and the other family members I mentioned.
Yeah, you're speaking my language with the probate Macarena right there.
Yeah, you a little dance there.
Down, up, out. I love
that's
it.
Yeah.
Hey, that makes sense, and I think that gives people a bit of a perspective of what you can and cannot do, just on a very basic level, and who you can work with on that. But one thing that really got my mind turning when I heard our episode from 2 years ago was the fact that you can use a self-directed IRA to lend money. And on the other side of it, it's, as an investor, a lot of people are looking for people to lend them money. And there's people that have self-directed IRAs that are always looking to lend their money. So it kind of went hand in hand. And I was like, wait a second. It's true. I mean, when you're in this real estate business, it's not just the asset, it's money being exchanged. How do you use the self-directed IRA to lend money?
So that is a great point. And it's one thing that I stress to real estate investors, especially real estate investors who are at RIAs, like looking to buy more property. You know, there's different ways that you can utilize self-directed IRAs. So obviously you want to think about IRAs. You want to think first, okay, what's my IRA doing, right? Is it working for me? Is it in the investments that are growing, that'll create me tax-free wealth? And do I like real estate as an investment? Now, when most people get into self-direction, I'll tell you, they have this vision of buying and selling real estate in their IRA, which is a great investment, but by no means is something you shouldn't look at. But it also takes a lot of work. If you're going out there and you're finding the property, you're negotiating the terms with the sellers, right? There's some work involved in finding property. So people find, well, it's not that easy than I thought. What's a little bit easier for people, though, is just to find other investors that are already have boots on the grounds and are already finding property, that maybe do it as a day-to-day, living. That's actually how I invest my IRAs. So I actually use my IRA as a private capital source for real estate investors. Why? It fits my lifestyle. I don't have to go out and find properties myself. I just have to find people that are finding properties in states that I want to loan in. I don't have to deal with toilets and tenants. So basically, at the end of the day, what I'm doing with my self-directed accounts is I'm investing in real estate, but I'm doing it passively, not actively. My IRAs, and I'll tell you, I have a Roth IRA and I have a health savings account. They own notes secured by real estate that other people found, that I get interest payments monthly from those real estate investors back to my IRAs, and I pay no taxes on that income. So basically what I've done, and what a lot of people choose to do, is they just turn their IRA to a bank. They use their IRA to fund other real estate investors' deals, and it's passive. It's safe, considering that you're secured by the property. If you close through a title company or through an attorney, you're going to be safe and secure. And banks do it all the time. Banks are in the business to loan, not own. So all that our clients are doing who choose to be passive is just saying, I'm just going to use my IRA like a bank. I'm just going to lend it to real estate investors and watch the mailbox money come in monthly. Now, on the flip side, you touched on this, which I think is so important for real estate investors. You should understand how self-direction works, whether you have an IRA or not, because there's $35 trillion sitting in retirement accounts right now, over 14 trillion just in IRAs alone. That is a private capital source that you as a real estate investor should be tapping into, because it doesn't tap into your credit and it's a relationship business. So the more people that you can engage with at your local RIA meetings or wherever you're networking, if you can find people that have idle retirement accounts that don't want to be active, they'd rather be passive, guess what you just unlocked? Private capital that allows you to make cash offers on real estate property, and you don't have to go to banks. So there's a huge opportunity for investors of all types to either, use their self-directed IRAs to buy or lend on real estate, but also the other side is like using other people's IRAs to fund your real estate deals to make more money for yourself today.
Yeah, and that's when the light bulb went off when I heard the episode, and I was like, "Wait a second, yeah, it's true." When I went to the New View conference, you even went on this point of everybody in there has a self-directed IRA, and all those people want to know what to use their money for. And if
Right.
you're making those connections and relationships with those people, it's like, wait a second, that's an opportunity. And some of them are looking to lend on certain types of assets and projects. Maybe it's multifamily, commercial, land, and everybody's got a different portfolio and what they want to do with it. And I thought that was an amazing point you made just now on self-directed IRAs and how other people can leverage it, even if you don't have one. That's the
Right.
idea.
Well, and here's the other thing too, and you know, it's something that's very rarely talked about, but I think that real estate investors should really focus on it because, you know, real estate investors, the individual real estate investors that are going out and finding these distressed properties and rehabbing them, you know, they're putting their skill and labor on the line, right? And normally they're using bank financing or hard money for that. But if you imagine for a second, finding somebody that's maybe got an idle retirement account that has not been moving for them and they're just frustrated with the investments that they're making. And you can talk to that person and say, hey, look, instead of investing in Walmart stock or whatever mutual fund that you have, some nameless, faceless investment that they just look at a statement and that's about it. What if you can convince them instead to invest in one of your real estate deals? But at the same time, tell them about how their money's safe and secure by the property, right? How the property works, what you're going to do with the property. Tell them what you're doing with their money as the lender. Because not only are you buying a property, but if you're rehabbing it, what are you doing? You're hiring contractors, you're hiring subcontractors, right? You're putting people to work in your local neighborhood. And then when you're done fixing the property up, you put a white picket fence up and you sell it to a family that needs the American dream of home ownership. And when you get that deal sold and you hand them back their money with all their interest, I guarantee you it's a different feeling for that person who just loaned on a property that they can see there was a social good invested with that investment. And I guarantee you a lot of people, they don't want to move back to the stock market when they see their money's not only growing, but doing something for other people, putting people to work in your own community.
Yeah, and it's a win-win for everyone that gets
Right.
involved
It's a
on it.
win-win-win-win. Yeah. When you add
Yeah.
all those components together.
Yeah. Nate, I think what's great about this is you have seen so much over the last 2 years in this market, from when we were at the New View conference and Vendor Palooza and all that. Like, so much has changed in this market. And I love how you talked about this the other day, which is how the days of saving retirement are over. Talk to
Yeah.
us.
So if you really stop to think about it, right? You look at your parents or you look at your grandparents. It was a different time back then, right? A lot of people, you know, could save their way to retirement. What I mean by save their way to retirement is by the time their check came in and they made their house payment or their car payment or you know pay for you know whatever cost of living that they had money left over that they could put in a retirement account. Okay, they saved their way to retirement. Their investment principles were a little bit different, right? They put money in a retirement account and most of their retirement account was the money they put in. So they just wanted safe, secure investments that protected their principal, which is completely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But what type of economy are we in today? Okay. And this is not a Debbie Downer scenario. This is just real life. Cost of living is up, right? Housing is way up. It's the first time in our history right now that the average median income doesn't qualify for the average median home price. So what's that do about retirement? Well, people have less money left over after they've paid all their monthly expenses to even think about their retirement. So the saving for retirement just doesn't work today unless we see cost of living come down or wages go way up. So you have to really focus if you're trying to get to retirement, you have to think about investing towards retirement. And this is why we've seen a huge shift just in the past couple of years of people taking their money out of the stock market, which I'm not against, but people are looking for alternative ways to grow their retirement. And when you look at things like real estate, just real estate as a fundamental investment, real estate's got cash flow, real estate's got appreciation. 90% of America's millionaires have been made buying real estate. Now people are starting to put two and two together and saying, if I can't get good returns that outpace inflation in the stock market, I need to find a way to invest in other things that might have different streams of income. Now people are putting two and two together and more people are self-directing and saying, I want real estate or I want notes with monthly income in my retirement account, because that's the only way that they can get to retirement now, because they can't save their way. You got to invest your way.
Right. And people want to make more on their return on their investments more than ever. They want to
right?
make higher than like 6-7%. They want to make 11, 12, 13% on their investments. And you want to do it tax free. And you
Right.
want to be able to pull that money out when you need it. And then, what's so great about that IRA is you just keep putting money into it, putting money into it. And then when you hit that retirement age, you can keep putting money into it.
Mhm.
And it has a lot of benefits to it. But what Nate you're talking about is huge right now with the cost of living being higher than ever. Inflation is through the roof. Who knows when that will come down. You have to source to alternative investments. And I love how you talked about it with me, which is a lot of people aren't focused on their IRAs. They're not focused on using these alternative investments. And this is what the wealthy people do, right?
Yeah, I mean, the wealthy have been using self-directed IRAs for decades. So just to let you know, as a reminder, self-directed is just a marketing term. Ever since the mid 70s, when IRAs were created, you can invest in the same things, anything except life insurance contracts and collectibles. So the rich and the wealthy, though, have been using self-directed IRAs to accumulate real estate and invest in large real estate deals. I mean, there's a lot of clients that like to invest in apartments or commercial properties or large syndications. These are now investments that are available to the mass public because of the internet. Now we've got information and technology that wasn't accessible to us, a few decades ago. But a few decades ago, it was almost an investment of in the know. You had to know somebody investing in an apartment building. You had to know somebody running a syndication or a private equity fund. So the rich and the wealthy have been investing their IRAs into these investments for a long period of time. And I'll tell you, they did an audit in 2016-ish and had an article in Forbes in 2020, which blew my mind, which most people probably missed, but I'll tell you what was in the article. There was an audit of about 27,000 tax returns, and they were looking at different things or different investment classes that people had in their IRAs. And here's the two numbers that stood out to me. Out of all of the IRAs out there, we're talking 14 trillion dollars. Only 2% of all of that money is invested in what we call alternative assets, things like real estate, commercial property, syndications, private equity. Only 2% of the entire amount. But when they just audited the IRAs that were valued above $5 million, guess how much of the assets in those accounts were alternative assets? 25%. So that tells you
Wow.
right there, the rich and the wealthy know the value of alternative investments. Look at family offices, for example. Family offices manage, money and assets of people that are ultra wealthy between 10 and $50 million. Look at the asset makeup of those family offices. Almost 45 to 50% of the asset makeups are alternative assets like real estate. So people in the know, people with money have been doing this. It's not new. It's just new to everybody else because now you can find investments online that you couldn't find a decade ago.
Yeah, and like you were telling me, you were like, what else do the wealthy do? They change their mindset and then they change the timing of their contributions, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
what did you notice in either your clients' trends or articles that was different about the timing of their contribution versus when other people contributed to their IRA?
That's a great point. So, and I think, and it's no fault to anybody. I think we've just been conditioned to think about our IRA in a retirement account really is just an afterthought, right? Work at a company, set up a 401k, put 10% of your earnings in your 401k, and just don't even think about it. You'll wind up with a big retirement account at the end of the year. Doesn't work like that. But also, we've been conditioned to make contributions to our IRAs before our tax filing deadline. So what people are doing is they're waiting all the way until like April 14th or whenever they're filing their taxes to throw in their annual contribution for their IRAs for the previous year. Well, guess what the wealthy do? They don't wait until tax filing deadline. As soon as January 1st hits, they make their annual contribution because you can make it as soon as January 1st hits, you're in the new year, you can max out your contributions to an IRA. But why do they do that? Because they give their IRA more capital at the beginning of the year, so it has 16 more months than the average person to grow tax-free. It's just a mindset switch. You can throw the money in January 1st or April 14th, but guess what the wealthy do? They throw it in early because they want that money invested, growing tax deferred or tax-free.
Yeah, I love that strategy. Get it in as soon as you can. And then you know what? The rest of the year, you don't even have to think about it. You did
Right.
it January 1st, that's it. And then you ride the market and wherever it goes, and then you're investing and playing around with the investments.
Right.
Just letting it sit
It
there.
also if you put it in, you're forced to think about what to do with it at that point. You know what I mean? If you're just throwing it in before the tax filing deadline, you're just throwing it in to try to, beat your CPA to it. But if you throw it in at the beginning of the year, you're not even filing your taxes at that point. You're at least looking at that money going, I need to make this money move because it's not moving, and at least forces the hand and forces you to start looking for investment opportunities. And sometimes that mind shift of just putting the money in there will force you to go and actually invest it. Probably something you haven't thought of, in previous years.
Right. And what's so different about this episode is how and I'm saving the best for last. That's what we're doing this year and this season. We're saving the best topic for last, which is creative financing and how to use that with your self-directed IRA. There's a lot of investors doing creative finance, sub two, seller terms, you name it. But I love how you were talking about how you're seeing different trends in how people are now using the self-directed IRA. Wholesaling. Let's start on that level. You've been
Yeah.
seeing a lot of people use it for wholesaling, right?
I've seen the wholesaling for a long time. And, the thing that's good about wholesaling is just like wholesaling outside of an IRA, that's kind of where people get their start, right? When you get into real estate, and you might not have a lot of money to throw around, right? But it gets you used to finding real estate deals. You wholesale. Wholesaling is great. I know a lot of investors that own skyscrapers today that started off with wholesaling back in the days. Wholesaling can be done in an IRA as well. So it's one of those investment strategies that doesn't take a lot of money. So, I mean, people say, well, don't you need like hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy real estate in an IRA? No, you just need enough money for an earnest money deposit. If you're wholesaling with the IRA, right, the only difference is you're putting the name of your IRA on the buyer's line instead of you personally. So, and I'm not saying you have to pick or choose, right? But if you're out there and you're wheeling and dealing, trying to find some deals, what you really want to do is you want to be strategic about it. You want to do enough deals. And if it's wholesaling, you want to do enough deals in your personal LLC or outside of an IRA first to put food on the table. But if you just keep stacking deal upon deal upon deal in your name or your LLC's name, guess what? Uncle Sam is just biting at the bit. He's saying, thanks. I love 40% of all that additional income you're making. So if you've got enough deals to where your needs are met, maybe you should start building up your Roth IRA. Open a self-directed Roth IRA. Throw $100 in there. If an earnest money is $100, just throw $100 in there and wholesale a deal inside of a Roth IRA and see how that feels comes tax time, because you don't pay taxes on that deal, but you're going to pay taxes on all the deals you do outside of the IRA. So it's a great way to get started. And there's other ways to get started, but wholesaling is kind of the one. If you're just starting with a few bucks, wholesaling an IRA works great.
Yeah. And let's just go to the other side of it. If you're not doing wholesaling and you're doing more long-term holds, maybe landlord tenant stuff. I know I have a couple friends that are interested in getting into real estate, but thinking about like, how do I start, how can I use maybe this as an investment to getting in and doing just long-term holds? Cause I don't have CRMs. I'm not going direct to seller. How about that with self-directed IRAs?
So one of the well-known facts among the industry, but not well known to everyday people, is that your IRA can actually leverage bank financing. So I'll just start with that. Your IRA can go out and buy a house and actually get a loan from a bank. Now, it's not going to be from a Wells Fargo or a Chase or any of those types of banks, but there's quite a few banks. We have them listed on our website if anyone wants to go there and look at our resource pages. But we have banks that will loan to IRAs. So you don't need, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You either need, if you're wholesaling, an earnest money deposit, or if you've got a little extra cash, you just want to put a down payment down and leverage some bank financing. That's a way to help buy an asset that you couldn't afford with just your IRA cash. So IRAs can borrow money, but IRAs can also, now that you know it can borrow money, can also leverage creative financing at the same time. So I have several clients that have accumulated real estate assets by buying property with seller financing. Okay, that's just a different bank. It's the previous owner that's the bank, not a traditional bank. So they've structured deals to where their, say, Roth IRA, for example, puts a down payment down and carries back a note to the original homeowner. That's a good way to acquire property with less out of pocket. Or you can take my client who owns 5 rental properties that he used only $70,000 to acquire in Austin, Texas. Okay, now you're probably thinking, how the heck do you buy 5 properties in Austin, Texas with $70,000? He bought each property subject to the underlying financing. Subject to is not a new strategy, by the way, guys. It's just out there to the masses now. Again, with the internet, and more people learn about it. But I have a client that has been buying property, had bought property back in 2012, subject to. He had an old 401k at a company that he worked at. It was a traditional IRA, by the way. He decided, you know what? I need to grow this $70,000, and I need way more money in my IRA than $70,000. So I know I'm going to grow it past this. So what he did is called a Roth conversion. He paid the taxes on the 70 to get it out of a traditional IRA, move it to a Roth IRA. Then what he did is he started going out and looking at property. And this is back in 2012. So we were just coming out of a recession, right? There was a unique opportunity to get some homes, and people, had some struggles if they had lost their job. We had a lot of people that couldn't afford their mortgage payments back then. They couldn't afford the property taxes back then. But these properties that he was finding had, some opportunity there. The homes were in good shape. They were in good areas. But here's the deal. They had no equity in them. So all the other real estate investors were passing on these deals because they're so narrow focused to think, oh, I'm not going to buy that house because there's no equity in it. He was thinking long term. He thought, well, if I can just come in with my Roth IRA as the investor, and my Roth IRA can make a small investment of maybe catching up the mortgage payments for this individual, maybe catching up the property taxes, giving them some cash for keys, my Roth IRA can take title to that property with a loan already on the property. And if I can just get this property rented, the renters will pay off these mortgages long term. So it's investments that he just put on the shelf. So he repeated this process 4 other times. Over a 5-year period, he bought 5 properties subject to. Those properties have been cash flowing in his Roth IRA. So every month the renter pays rent, he just pays the mortgage payment down. Each year, the property values go up in value, right? The note balances or the interest payments stay relatively the same, okay? But the rents go up each year. So he's got more income that he can accelerate the note pay downs. Long story short, his Roth IRA in 3 more years will own 5 rental properties free and clear. That'll be worth about $4 million. And he used $70,000 to acquire them because he identified a solution for people. He got properties that people were passing on, and he just used the creative strategy of subject to and applied it to his tax-free Roth IRA.
Interesting. I know you were telling me that story, and I loved how you put it, is that you don't need hundreds to get started in this. You just need to start contributing and then leveraging that account to getting these opportunities, whether through real estate itself or the assets through the notes. But that was a really interesting story, being able to buy that many properties and then probably he's doing more than that. You don't need that you don't need large amounts of cash just to buy property. You can use that just a little bit.
Yeah, and he's not day trading to get there. He's not having to buy and exit different stock trades and all that. He just bought 5 properties over 5 years, and he's just been letting the renters pay down the notes. It's been very little work for him. But the key to that is as an investor, what you really should be doing when you're going out and looking for properties, you should be looking for properties for yourself, because there are investments that fit you better. If you make cash in 6 weeks, maybe that's a good deal to do outside of your IRA. But don't pass on deals that create long-term wealth in the future, even if there's no equity in the property. If it's a property that maybe you can own free and clear in 20 years, that's a good investment to put in a Roth IRA because it's on the shelf. So investments in your Roth IRA or an IRA in general do not have to look and feel the same as the investments you do outside of the IRA. In fact, they can be completely different, but you should have your radar open as a good real estate investor to look for opportunities to do both.
And so just to be clear, you can use your IRA to invest in sub 2 or seller term kind of deals.
Yep, all day long. So again,
Okay.
you're doing the same legwork. It's just your IRA would be the buyer, and you'd have to work through a company like us to facilitate the buy and hold all the documents. So you're doing the same legwork. So if you find a deal that looks good in an IRA and maybe better than outside of an IRA, that's why you use a company like us. So subject to, great strategy, especially if you're going to do some long-term holds.
Nate, tell us the story about the seller finance with the $6,000 down payment and the person that bought those 3 warehouses, because that was a good story.
Right. So this is again, another creative investment or creative financing technique. Had a client that was out, looking for property. He's a commercial broker. He had $6,000 in an IRA at the time. So not much, right? He's got to get creative. And he met a widow who had, her husband was managing 3 warehouses that they owned. And when he died, she ended up inheriting the headache of the tenants. Now, she wasn't equipped to be a property manager. She was kind of frustrated. The tenants started kind of abusing that power, that she wasn't very aggressive in collecting rents. So she felt like it was just a hassle to deal with them. She liked the income that was being generated, but it started decreasing as 1 and 1.5 of the tenants were stopping. They weren't paying on time. So our client came in and said, well, what is it that you want out of this property? Do you want all cash? Are you trying to get cashed out? And she's like, no, I just like the monthly income. So he went back and he thought, you know what, if I can solve the problem of the monthly income where you don't have to deal with the tenants, would you be interested in setting up a deal to where maybe I gave you $6,000 cash from my Roth IRA? Since you own these 3 warehouses free and clear, my Roth can carry back a note to you, and my Roth will make payments to you monthly equal to what you're getting now. But here's the thing, you don't have to deal with the tenants. She said, well, that sounds great. So what he did is his Roth IRA carried back a note, okay, to the original homeowner. He immediately put his property manager in place, who kicked 1 tenant out, rehabilitated the second one. Basically, long story short, got 3 paying tenants pretty quickly. But now the properties are owned by the Roth IRA. So here's what's happening. Those 3 paying tenants pay the Roth IRA. He takes what he needs to pay, and he pays the note payment to the widow. He keeps this process going for 16 months. Okay. One of the good tenants decides, hey, I want to buy my warehouse. Is there any opportunity where I can just buy this? And he said, sure. Property values had increased. It was a good opportunity. So basically, long story short, his Roth IRA that owned 3 warehouses sold 1, got enough cash back to the Roth IRA to pay off the note. And what did he retain in the IRA cash flowing? 2 warehouses that he used $6,000 to acquire. And again, that's just applying your knowledge as a real estate investor, solving a problem for somebody, but then utilizing your IRA so you don't have to pay taxes on any of that income. So he took a $6,000 initial investment, turned it into 2 warehouses that are worth about $100,000 each. So $200,000 that are cash flowing. And he'll never have to pay taxes on that because it's just generating cash flow and appreciation and income in his Roth IRA that he doesn't have to worry about until, say, 59.5, when that entire bucket's completely tax-free to him.
And I think that's the big point, is that you don't need a lot of money to do deals like this. And you're using an account tax-free, right, Nate?
Yep.
And
Completely
you're
tax-free.
you're using that account to get into some big deals. Warehouse deals, I know a lot of people know, are not small deals. And if you can just get that creative with using that little bit, using notes and structuring it that way, boom, you can do these kinds of deals that other people are doing out there. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. And one thing I'll mention too is, we talk a lot about the active side, and those are 2 very, extraordinary circumstances because they were active and they went out and found property. For the majority of the listeners, you're probably thinking, well, I'm not going to find a property like that. That's okay, because there's other strategies that play well. And I kind of mentioned early in the program that I like to lend. We have a lot of clients. Actually, most of our clients at Directed IRA are passive with their IRA investments. They either lend to real estate investors through secured promissory notes. They invest in syndications. They invest in other, private equity deals that own, commercial property and so forth. But, don't turn your back on lending too, because lending, if you do it right, that can be a great way to grow a small IRA too. For me, for example, I do short-term loans to real estate investors, right? 6 to 18-month terms. Now, why do I do short-term loans to real estate investors? Well, because the real estate investors I deal with, they only need my money short-term because they just need some cash that doesn't have to go through an underwriter, that they can acquire a property that they need to fix up and sell in a year. So what they're doing is they're borrowing my money to acquire it. And if they hold it, they'll refinance my IRAs and pay me back, or they'll sell the property after they've owned it a year and a day to avoid long-term or short-term capital gains, and I get my money back. So what does this mean to me as a lender? I get all of my principal and interest back after year 1, which allows me to reinvest all of that capital back into another deal, either with them or somebody else. So let's assume that I start with $100,000 as a lender, and I have the ability to do short-term notes that I negotiate the terms for and I can compound my interest at 14%. What does $100,000 do compounded at 14% tax-free? It turns into $1.4 million without a single additional contribution. I don't have to put savings in there. I just need to keep my money working and keep it invested in deals that I'm secured by. And if I structure the deal appropriately where I get the money back and I can reinvest it in a year, compounding interest works well. Einstein said it best, the eighth wonder of the world. So lending, buying real estate, again, it's just stepping out of the box, realizing that there's so many different creative strategies that you can use to grow your IRA exponentially, and you're not stuck in just Wall Street investments.
Yeah, I love compounding interest. I love playing with the calculator to see like what it can be if you do investments and you're making a certain return a year after year. It in the beginning it doesn't take off, but all of a sudden, give it like
It's got that
15
hockey
years,
stick.
it just
Yeah.
yes, it just skyrockets.
Yeah.
And what a wild story you told on the last episode too, with the grandma helping the daughter, and she already had like $70,000 when she was I don't even know what age it was, but it was ridiculous. And imagine what she has now with compounding interest. Takes
Oh, yeah.
off. Huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a 4-year-old with a Roth IRA. I don't know if the listeners heard it, but a 4-year-old with a Roth IRA set up by grandma, by the way. Okay. And first people are like, how does a 4-year-old have a Roth IRA? Well, the 4-year-old was a baby model. Grandma put her on the cover of her book and paid her a modeling fee to give her earned income so they can make a contribution to the 4-year-old's Roth IRA. And what they did is grandma self-directed her Roth IRA with granddaughter's Roth IRA. They bought a piece of land, subdivided the land, sold off parcels. And by the time that granddaughter was 9, she had a $75,000 Roth IRA. If we only all had grandmas like that.
Yeah. And imagine starting off with that at 9 years old.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's crazy. Nate, tell us about the real estate option and the hoarder house story and how that all came into play with the Roth IRA.
So that's a good one too. That's a friend of mine out in Texas. And here's kind of how this deal came about. And again, real estate options, joint ventures are another avenue that you can take. Be creative with retirement funds. And basically what had happened is he had somebody come to him and approach him, and really they just had a problem. There was a lady past retirement age. She owned her house free and clear, kind of a rough area of town. Not many investors were in this area of town. She had kind of turned it into a hoarder house, and, she was past retirement, so she didn't really have income. Social Security wasn't really paying the day. And she got to a point where she couldn't afford the property taxes, right? Property taxes had skyrocketed. She couldn't keep up with the property taxes. And guess who doesn't care? The county assessor. They don't care if you're past retirement or what. They just make sure that the property taxes are paid. So she had a problem where she might have been out on the street if she lost her home. So, and there wasn't much equity in it because it was a hoarder house in a rough area of town. So she went to our client and basically said, I need, some money to help save this house. And he thought, well, I don't know if I even really want the house. The house is in a horrible condition. But he had some money in a Roth IRA at the time. He had 10 grand in a Roth IRA. So he was a savvy investor. So he thought, well, okay, well, what if I did this? I've got $10,000 in a Roth IRA. I don't even know if I want your house, but what I'll do is I'm willing to risk $10,000 to help you out, because what we'll do is I'll give you the $10,000 out of the Roth IRA. But in exchange, I want an option. I want my Roth IRA to have a 2-year option to buy your property for the $10,000 I give you. Okay. You got 2 years to kind of figure it out. You can either pay me back or, move out of the house, but I'm at least going to buy you time for 2 years out of this $10,000. And basically his IRA, Roth IRA, held an option contract for about 2 years. Now, in that time, properties were going up. There's all sorts of multifamily getting built around the area. So the land value of that property was going up. And the homeowner decided that she was just going to move back to some family in Virginia. So she exited the house. So what the investor did at that time is he just exercised his right of the option to acquire the property for the $10,000 of consideration that his Roth IRA already gave her. So now he's got a hoarder house owned by his Roth IRA. Now you think, now what am I going to do with it? I've got to bulldoze it. I've got to build something on it. But he didn't have enough money in the Roth IRA to do any of that. So he reached out to his network. He had a construction company. He had a business or partner at the time that had a construction company. The land value and where this property sat was a real ideal place to bulldoze the property and build 2 new townhomes. So what he did is he structured a joint venture agreement after taking title to the property, a joint venture agreement with the Roth IRA and the construction company, where the construction company came in, put all the cost to bulldoze the property, build 2 new townhomes. And when they sold the townhomes, the joint venture agreement said we're going to split the profit 50-50. So on that $10,000 initial investment as a real estate option turned into a joint venture that netted the Roth IRA $297,000 in about 3 years after construction was done. Applying your knowledge as a real estate investor with a small Roth IRA and taking that money from a small Roth IRA and making it larger and saying, woo, thank God I didn't do that in my name, because I would have had to owe Uncle Sam a big chunk of that money. And now he got his Roth IRA off to a healthy start where you can navigate and do some other deals. You don't have to be so creative, but $297,000, you can do a lot of stuff with that in a Roth IRA.
Oh yeah. Small investment up front is really what it takes. You don't need hundreds, and you're using creative strategies to turn small things into big opportunities is what you're doing here. I love it.
And you're navigating the taxes. If you're going to take a small amount of money, make it larger, make sure you do it in a Roth IRA. Don't do that in the traditional, because you're going to pay the piper at some point.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, this was actually a bonus question that I had asked you. And I wanted to ask it here because a lot of people love getting into short-term rentals, right? Airbnbs, you name it, short-term. Can you use self-directed IRAs for short-term rentals?
You can. So it's definitely an investment that we've seen. It grew in the last decade. We had a lot of people, owning Airbnbs and short-term rentals in their IRA. The one caution I will say, and again, it could be a great investment, but there are a couple cautions I would say if you own Airbnbs or short-term rentals in your IRA. Back to the prohibited transactions, you cannot use, as the IRA owner, you cannot use the property for personal use. While it's owned in the IRA, you can't go stay there, you can't vacation there. Those same family members I mentioned cannot stay there. Your brother can stay there if you want, but you can't use it for personal use. So that's caution number one. Caution number two is Airbnbs fit under a different category. Airbnbs are not often looked at as a real estate investment. They're looked at as a business. And IRAs can own businesses. But if your IRA owns a business, what kicks in, it's a tax to the IRA. Basically what this tax is, it's a leveling of the playing field that the IRS says, we don't want IRAs to have an opportunity to buy businesses and not pay business tax on it, because all it's going to do is just going to monopolize the industry, and business owners that are owning it in their personal name, they're just going to get wiped out, because if IRAs can own businesses tax-free, why would you ever own a business outside of an IRA? So they have this tax. It's called unrelated business income tax. It's not something to be scared of. It's just something to be aware of, that if your IRA owns a business, and short-term rentals can definitely be considered a business, you have to analyze whether or not it makes sense in an IRA, because your IRA, not you, your IRA has to pay taxes called unrelated business income taxes. Now, there's ways to minimize the tax with a C Corp blocker. I don't want to get too detailed in that, but it's just something to consider, that A, you can't use the property for personal use, and you might be deemed a business, and you might have to navigate through this unrelated business income tax. So those are just the cautions. And again, you probably want to talk to a CPA that understands it and just analyze it. It's a math problem. It's not something that should deter you from doing it. If that's where your knowledge base is, I'll say, even if your IRA has to pay a tax, are you better served investing in something that you know and understand better versus just investing in stocks that you might get less of a return on investments you know less about, right? Just trying to steer clear of this tax. So it's just a math problem, just something to consider. It's considered unrelated business income tax if you want to nerd out and read that.
Yeah, and probably always best just to get with a CPA about it too, to figure out like how the numbers are run. But like you said, you can use it, just got to be careful with it, right? Which was really interesting when we were on the call. And I was like, really, you gotta, it's not like the others. It's different. So love it, Nate. I mean, you're a wealth of knowledge with this stuff, man. I mean, there's so much with self-directed IRAs and things that we can't even touch on today, that it's endless. And if you're looking to get into this, Nate is somebody that you want to reach out to. And we constantly put up the information for Nate, whether you want to reach out to him through his socials, his email, a phone number, you name it. If you're even thinking about it, if you're even trying to get into it, reach out to Nate. Because this is a wealth of knowledge right here. I love it. Nate, At the end of my show, I've been doing signature questions now. And I've asked every guest something different. So these are different questions
Okay.
I haven't been asked yet. Um, so, and this kind of is pertinent to you because I admire this about you. How do you stay organized and prioritize things in your business?
Oh my God. Oh, well, okay. You mentioned something, Calendly, earlier. I use Calendly to organize my calls and a lot of my meetings. I'll say for me personally, if I don't put it on my calendar, my normal calendar, it doesn't exist to me about 5 minutes after I hear it. So, in order for me to stay organized, I have to put everything I do during the day on my calendar, even if that's something simple like follow up with Al Nicoletti with an email, call so and so, reach out to so and so, look or research this. I put it on my calendar and I try to organize my calendar the night before. So when I wake up, I already have in the back of my head what I have to do. But if I do not put things on my calendar, I'm a mess.
I 100% agree with that. So putting things on my calendar, 100%. Also been doing like sticky notes more. And then sometimes I have to like email myself to remind myself of something that happened because
I do that too.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, or just like
Yeah.
send it to yourself. I love it. Great answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever it takes to stay organized.
Right.
Nate, what are the biggest challenges that you face in your industry?
I would say for our industry, it's really the education component to it. So, Directed IRA we focus a lot on education because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with self-directed IRA clients, we're not selling investments to anybody. So we're not going to get out there and tell you should invest in this and or this and that. But it is a learning curve for people that are just getting into it. There's 3 steps to self-directing: open an account, fund an account, self-direct it. The first 2 are real self-explanatory. Anybody can do it. It's that third step, the self-directing part, that gets people and keeps people from, I think, pulling the trigger on self-direction. So we try to put out enough education and content on different ways that you can invest a self-directed IRA so that at some point the listener says, oh, I think I can do that. Because we realized, real estate's not for everybody. I mean, there's a ton of investments we didn't even talk about. Investing in startup companies, investing in oil and gas, cryptocurrency, for example. We have a lot of clients that have crypto IRAs that buy cryptocurrency. We talk so much about real estate, but we try to put enough content out there with different, whether it's us speaking or guest speakers speaking, to talk about different alternative investments that are available to everybody, just so our audience has a clear understanding of what's available out there so that they can make the best decisions for their retirement accounts.
Yeah, I can imagine how for a lot of people, like, they hear all this and they're just like, well, wait, I don't know, like, I can't visualize it, right? So then you have to like really put it on the PowerPoint or give them pamphlets and show them like the flows of how things are going, right? So just visualizing it. And I think
Yeah.
eventually it sounds like people catch on to it and then they realize, whoa, this is going to be huge.
Yeah, well, and I find that too, people resonate with stories. So that's why I try to keep the stories in mind, and not my stories, the stories of our own clients, right? People that I've had as clients over my 10-year period. Those are stories that resonate because people, they don't remember your slideshow. They remember the story you told in one of the case studies. So being in the industry for 10 years at least has given me that opportunity to work with, thousands of clients on different types of investments. I like to share that with people because I wish somebody shared this stuff with me 10 years prior to me learning about it. So I'm really passionate about sharing it because I don't feel like I'm selling anything to anybody. I'm just giving people a broader spectrum of what they're allowed to do in their IRA. And, people think, oh, am I thinking outside of the box? No, what we're doing, especially at Directed IRA, we're just giving you the opportunity to realize the box is bigger than you thought. Right. This is not out of the box thinking. This is just the box is a lot bigger than you thought. And alternative investments, I will tell you, are on the rise. If you haven't been paying attention, alternative investments, the amount of alternative investments that have been owned now have doubled from the years of 2015 to 2021, and they're expected to double again by 2026. So by 2026, alternative investments will be a $30 trillion industry. So, and we're still kind of on the cusp of it being new, I would say. So, but again, back to you as the listener, you want to understand that your IRA can invest in all sorts of things. So we always tell people, invest in what you know, and that's going to be the best way to get to retirement.
Invest in what you know. That'll help. And like you said, I wish I would have heard about all this years ago, right? I mean,
Everybody, yeah. You would be surprised how many clients say, "I wish I knew about this 10 years ago." I've never heard of somebody saying, "I learned about it at the right time." It's. I wish I knew about this 10 years ago. I wish I knew about this 20 years ago. Oh,
So true. Love it, Nate. Nate, who do you look up to for guidance and mentorship?
ooh, that's a good one. So, you know, so my father set a lot of groundstone in me as far as like a person. So I always look to him as far as like how I navigate as a man or as a person. But when it comes to mentorship, I look to a lot of the clients that encountered over the years. I've learned so much about real estate being in the self-directed IRA industry that I never learned outside of the self-directed IRA industry. And we didn't talk about it, but right out of college, I was in real estate. I was a mortgage loan officer. I owned my own rental properties. I had about 20 rental properties at one time. I thought that I knew real estate until I started working in the self-directed IRA industry and seeing all these clients that were investing in, doing deals like subject to deals. I was learning about subject to in 2012. It's just now becoming big. But I learned that from the clients that had already learned that themselves. So, I look to the people that, that I that I have as clients that are savvy real estate investors, and I've learned a lot from them along the way. So, these case studies come from them, and I've learned so much, through them. I just enjoy what I do at this point.
I love it. There's nothing like going through the experiences, right? Going through it yourself and being hands-on and seeing that instead of hearing it, it's irreplaceable. I mean, I love that for you. Nate, this has been a blast. I love having you on. Every time it's different, and the stories just get better and better. And I was thinking about how many things you talked about last time, how many things you talked about this time. I absolutely love it. And we always have listeners out there. I always do a roll call before we get to the end. Teresa is watching. I love it, Teresa. She said, "Happy Valentine's Day, Al, Michael, and the team and everyone. Happy Valentine's Day, Teresa. We love you, and we love that you're on and always listening to the show. And we know so many people will be listening to this, whether now, later, you name it. So this is, if you're trying to get into this, reach out to Nate. Nate's the guy for self-directed IRAs. He's seasoned in it. This is what you want to get with. And Nate, I got to say, it's been a blast, man. Love having you. And as I do on my show, I have a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. It can be anything that you've already discussed, you haven't discussed, you want to really throw out there. It could be one word, a sentence, you name it. This is your moment. Final words, final thoughts. Nate Hare.
I'll make it as a challenge. Okay. And I make this challenge because I see so many people listen to programs like this or learn about self-directed IRAs, and they get this analysis paralysis. They think there's so much information, I don't know where to start, and they just do nothing. Most of my clients, once they do their first deal, that's when the game changes for them. They go through the process. They go through the unknown of actually doing a self-directed IRA investment. So my final word would actually be a challenge to anybody out there. If you're interested in investing in real estate or other alternatives and you have a retirement account, I make you this challenge to just do one deal this year. Even if it's a small deal, it could be a cryptocurrency deal. It could be a small rehab loan to a rehabber. Just do one deal and see how the process works. Take that first step, because you'll never get to the end of the road if you don't take the first step. And the first step to me is just doing your first deal. So that would be my challenge, and that would be my final word.
Boom. We're going to leave it right there. Nate, you're the man. Loved having you on the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with self-directed IRAs. And I hope everyone gets in touch with you when they're interested, if they're interested, because this can be a game changer to how you level up your business. So Nate, I know I'll be seeing you again at a conference. Hopefully you come to Jacksonville, you name it. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to see you again, man. It's been way too long.
Awesome. I appreciate you, Al. I appreciate your team. It's been a blast. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be running into each other soon.
Oh, yeah. You got it. I'll see you soon, Nate. Take care. All right, everybody. If you missed any of that about how self-directed IRAs work, the case studies, and the knowledge that Nate Hare dropped. You got to go back, check it out, scan the QR code. There's just tons of information. And also, if you miss Nate's episode, you got to scroll back. It had to be season 2. If you miss any of that, there's so much there as well that Nate expanded on when it comes to self-directed IRAs. What a magnificent way to accumulate your wealth over a long time and invest in various assets, or you can lend out of it. There's so much to it. Every time I hear about it, I'm fascinated by it. And every time I'm talking to Nate Hare about this, my wheels are turning. I'm always thinking about how do you leverage these kinds of things. And just when you think it's all about wholesaling, buying, flipping, there's all these other things out there, and a lot of people are getting into this. So if you missed any of that, check it out. And we're always here every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We can't wait to see you next Wednesday. Have a great night, everybody. Take care. I'll see you soon.